my 57-year-old, completely healthy dad, non-smoker, not overweight, not a huge drinker, was out on a bike ride on the Monday morning and had a massive heart attack. And yeah, spent the afternoon with him in the hospital, in the ICU, while they tried to save him, at which they couldn't. And he died that evening. So yeah, in the space of sort of, I think my mum rang me at like midday and he died by it was about 7:30 that evening.
Mm-hmm.
So suddenly, like, my world obviously completely like changed. And it was so out of the blue. Obviously,
At what
yeah.
at what moment did you think that something was potentially quite serious?
I don't think I ever, like, I think we didn't really know much when we arrived at the hospital because he was taken off for surgery. We had no idea kind of how major the initial heart attack was. We didn't know if he was conscious. Like when I went to the hospital, all I took with me was like my work laptop because I thought he'd be just having tests and I'd be bored and waiting around and doing some emails. So I had no idea. And like I said, like he wasn't ill or anything like that. Um, Me and my mum were in the waiting room of the ICU, and there was another woman in there who I think her husband was having an operation. And some nurses came in and they went over to speak to her, and she started freaking out and like really upset. And they said to her, don't panic. Like, we wouldn't give you bad news in a waiting room. Like, we're just updating you that he's out of surgery. You can see him soon. Like, we would never tell you anything bad in the middle of a waiting room. Like, it's okay. And then a few minutes later, a consultant came in and asked me and my mum to come with him into a separate room. So I was then like, oh, okay, we're being given bad news. And I think he spoke to us, and a lot of it I kind of can't really remember, but he basically was trying to get across that, the next 24 hours were critical, and just kind of how unwell he was and how the procedures that they tried to do with fitting stents that usually work hadn't worked. Um, and yeah, then the next few hours we kind of got to see him, and then we were back in the waiting room, and then we were back to see him.
When you got to see him, what kind of condition was he in?
Yeah, not not good. Obviously, yeah, he never regained consciousness, so he was unconscious. There was like probably about 30 monitors that he was hooked up to that were all beeping away and doing different things. Loads of doctors, nurses. My cousin, who's actually a doctor at that hospital, but it was her day off, she came in. Obviously, it's to support us, but also to help with like the things the doctors were telling us that we weren't, necessarily taking in. And I think she understood, I know she understood a lot more than we did, because obviously she was in that weird position of, she was there as a family member, but also she knew what these machines were indicating and the things that they were doing and how he perhaps wasn't responding as you'd want someone that was going to get better would. So I think she knew like several hours before we did that that he wasn't going to make it, which I never really did. I think it seemed too huge to like get my head around, because I was like, he was fine that morning. And yeah, it was just, I think I had it in my head when the consultant said like, the next 24 hours are critical kind of thing. So every minute that passed, I was like, he's made it through another minute. He's made it through another minute. Like, this is good. This is good. And, my cousin kind of had to say to me, like, at this point, even if he doesn't die, he's not going to recover. Which I couldn't, that never crossed my mind. In my mind, it was like, he's either going to be fine or he's going to die. So, like, they need to carry on doing everything they can. But it got to a point where if he had survived, he would not have been, like, himself. He would have been, I don't know, like, severely, like, because all his oxygen being gone for so long, like, it wouldn't have been, like, had any quality of life. But that genuinely did not, like, feature. For some reason, my brain had it as, oh, he either gets better or he dies, so they need to, like, keep going. But, they told us he was the sickest person in the whole hospital at that point. And they'd run out of adrenaline to give him. They'd given so much adrenaline that they'd actually run out,
Interesting.
which like it didn't matter. Like they wouldn't have saved him if they had more. Like it was too far gone.
For sure.
Yeah,
Makes
but
sense.
that was quite a like insane statistic, I guess. Yeah.
And then when did it come to the moment that he ultimately passed on?
They said to us, I think it was between about 7:30, 7 in the evening, and they said to me and my mum, that we were going to have to make a decision to turn off the machines, because his organs had been too damaged. I can't remember obviously it was a heart attack. There was the stent thrombosis, was the stents failing because they immediately clotted, and then there was another thing on his death certificate which means like I think it's cardiogenic shock, something like that. Basically, all your organs are fucked. So they said that to us, and almost straight away after they said that, he then died of his own accord. So we didn't have to make that decision, that choice. So that all kind of happened quite quickly. But it was not a nice moment, obviously, and you kind of realize that you can't quite believe it. Yeah. I think my mum actually called it a few seconds before it actually happened. My cousin later told me.
When you said called it, in what sense?
I think my mum heard a beep or a long beep and said, like, he's gone. And my cousin later said, yeah, he hadn't actually at that point. But it was like very imminent, like within a minute. So my mum basically decided he was dead, and he actually wasn't. But yeah, like within seconds. So it was a bit weird. But yeah, they kind of went along with it because they knew that in the next few seconds it was going to happen. But yeah.
And then the trip home that evening from the hospital.